What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the channel. It's your girl Mocha. It's me, and I'm live with Big T, aka my hubby. We're gonna go over day 153 of YSL, the plea deal of Camarvius Nichols. We're gonna talk about it. In addition to that, and I'll be talking about this on my live on Saturday, whatever happens this week, but it looks like the judge put some stipulations on Miss Sylvia's Rule 22. the mess. But I wanted to come on live, and just because, this happened, and I was like, oh my goodness, let's discuss it. Let's discuss the plea deal that Camarvius Nichols took. So I've technically watched it. I
haven't been updated. Haven't been privy to what occurred today. So I told her, let's just put it on live. Let me see what happened. I know that over the weekend, there's been all this speculation, everybody jumping to all the conclusions about who did what's going to happen, mistrial. As you can see, all the clickbait that's been going around YouTube, and everyone had a theory on what was going to happen today. So, we finally, let's settle in and see what actually happened.
Yes. Now, keep in mind, he knows it's a plea deal. We know that plea deal discussions have been going on. And we're going to take a look together with you guys at Camarvius Nichols' plea deal. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off. I honestly just kind of started it where they came on screen. I know they leave and they come back, but we'll kind of see what happens here. And we're watching it on 1.5 speed, just FYI. So I was nervous.
Right, so for both of you, I am sorry to have to say this, but I am going to be entering in order modifying each of your Rule 22s. It has come to my attention, and I have confirmed that each of you has been recording in the courtroom while I have not been on the bench, and that is a clear violation of Rule 22. And so you may record today's proceedings, but after today, if you want to record, you're going to have to do it from the media room. You may be in here in the courtroom as a spectator without any recording equipment, or you may be in the media room to record, but no more with your equipment in the courtroom, because y'all have both recorded things that you're not supposed to be recording based on Rule 22. So I'll enter those orders today. Thank you. All right. It is my understanding that we have a plea to be tendered for Mr. Nichols. Is that right? All right. Your Honor, may we approach? You may.
Now I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Just to speak on that, I think that was because at some point in time, Sylvia had like 3 cameras in the courtroom, one on the prosecution, one on the defensive side, and one she was live streaming from. So I guess the happenings that she got from last Wednesday, they didn't like that behind the scenes stuff that she got. They didn't like that, but I'm sure she'll talk about it more on her channel. So here we're back on the bench.
Taking the lead, going through the plea. Okay. All right, Mr. Harvey, do either you or you, Ms. Hilton, need this plea of guilty and waiver of rights form back? Thank you. All right, Mr. Nichols and Mr. Harvey, whenever y'all are ready, you can come on up to the podium.
Mr. Harvey said he's signing the indictment.
Okay. Whenever y'all are ready.
Your Honor, I'd like my client to be present for this. He's a member of the public, and I would like him to observe this, and he has a right to be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we get Mr. Kendrick out, please? Stand by.
Oh, wait, Your Honor, I'm sorry. Can we have the, can I approach?
And so we're going to fast forward again. I honestly just wanted Big T to see this.
I think the jury's not in there at this time.
No, the jury is dismissed until she basically calls them back. So we're going to fast forward some more until basically Kendrick is in the courtroom. Here we go. We're going
hashtag free the jury.
I know, right? So we're going to come back here. Just a moment. For those of you that don't know, welcome to the channel. It's Mocha is me. This is my hubby, Big T. At least that's what I call him. He hasn't watched today's proceedings. He's just kind of a spectator through me. I'm just a regular person that got interested in this trial and, you know, free thug. But yes, I wanted him to watch it with me, to give me some insight, because he knows a little bit about the justice system, to give me some more insight on whether or not he thinks that this was a good thing or not. And then we'll discuss it together. So welcome to those of you who are new.
All right, I apologize for the interruption. Thanks for y'all's patience. Some of the co-defendants in the ongoing trial wanted to be out here, so they are out here now. And Mr. Harvey, are we ready with Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
All right.
Do you want him at the podium or do you want him here seated?
I think at the podium, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look, I'm nervous.
Now let's have him at the podium because he's going to have to take an active part in this entry.
This was not a move moment. She was like, yeah, you don't sit down. We're not doing this like
Sergeant,
that.
can you swear him in, please?
Raise your right hand. So I first just want to get that.
Yes,
All right. State, spell your first last name for coach, and I'll include my please, sir.
Marvius Nichols, Quamarvious, last name Nichols, Nichols.
Did you get that, Jack?
I plan
Do you
to
want to do it
be
again? All right.
Hello.
Slow down. Your name. Spell it for this
How
young
are
lady right
you?
here.
Okay, my name is Marvius Nichols, first name Quamarvious, my last name Nichols, Nichols.
And Mr. Nichols, are you the same person referred to as Quamarvius Nichols on indictment 22 SC 183572?
Yes,
And are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
no,
Have you had the opportunity to sign this indictment with your attorney, Mr. Bruce Harvey?
yes,
You're like, yeah, I am.
How old are you?
29.
And how far did you go in school?
I got my GED.
I did not hear you.
I got my GED.
Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes,
Do you understand that in this indictment, you were initially charged with count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, which carries a sentence of 5 to 20 years?
Mhm.
You were also charged with count 49 in this indictment, which is murder, which carries a sentence of life. You were charged with 2 counts of participation in criminal street gang activity, which was counts 50 and 51, which each carried a sentence of 5 to 20 years. You were initially charged with counts 53 and 65, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon under Code Section 16-11-133, which each carried a sentence of 15 years consecutive to count 1. And then you were also charged with count 54, which is possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, which carries a sentence of 5 years consecutive to count 1. Do you understand that that's what you were initially charged with?
yes,
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
yes,
Have you had an opportunity to go over and review the waiver of rights form with your attorney?
yes,
And I want to hand this to your attorney. Did you sign this along with your attorney?
yes,
Plans and pens. I agree with you 100%.
Have you had enough
That's
time to speak with
exactly
your
what I
attorney, Mr. Bruce Harvey, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charge in this indictment?
yes,
Do you need any more time to discuss this matter with your attorney?
no,
Are you satisfied with this counsel representation?
yes,
And I'd include in there the counsel and representation by Ms. Westmoreland and Mr. Garland as well. You had a team of attorneys.
That's correct.
All right.
And they are all attorneys of record and have participated in this particular proceeding and negotiations leading up to this proceeding.
Thank you.
Do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
yes,
Do you waive any and all defects with respect to the indictment?
yes,
And to your knowledge, have you been arrested on all the charges in this indictment?
yes,
And Mr. Harvey, the state's unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Do you know of any outstanding warrants that are related to these charges?
Not related to those charges.
Have you been advised of the minimum and maximum sentence for each charge that you are pleading to?
Yes.
Do you understand this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means that the state will recommend to the court as to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, a sentence of 20 years to serve 7 years in custody, balanced on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand as a part of the negotiated agreement, the state will null process dismiss count 49, which is the murder count, count 50, 51, which are the gang activity counts, count 53, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, count 54, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and count 65, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Do you understand that is a negotiated agreement?
Yes.
Do you understand the court does not have to accept that recommendation?
Yes.
And the court can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and can run those charges consecutively or one after the other?
Yes.
Well, there's only one charge
Yeah,
that
so I-
a guilty plea is
I
being
was-
entered into. So
Under my breath to that.
there's no other sentence to run anything consecutively with regard to this plea. You understand that?
Judge.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you understand this plea may be
I
used
know.
to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as other jurisdictions, including the federal courts?
Yes.
Do you understand if you are currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on your entering a guilty plea today?
Yes.
Do you understand if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of your sentence?
Yes.
Do you understand you are not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand if you are not a United States citizen, a guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, just like a conviction at a trial would, and that is true regardless of being advised by your attorney or anyone else?
Yes.
Do you understand that neither the court, your attorney, nor the district attorney's office has anything to do with parole, the Department of Corrections, or Board of Pardons and Paroles, and no one can guarantee parole no matter what anyone has told you?
Yes.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, your right to serve on a jury, your right to obtain a passport, your right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment.
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you'll be guilty of a felony, which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison?
Yes.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you have the right to a trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights? After each right, I'll ask you to say yes or no if you understand. The right to a trial by jury.
Yes.
The right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself.
Yes.
I
The
get,
right to confront witnesses.
I
against
agree.
you.
Yes.
The right to assist with counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at the trial of your case.
Yes.
The right to the presumption of innocence.
Yes.
The right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence.
Yes.
The right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence.
Yes.
The right to have the charge against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
November makes
The right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial.
Yes.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea?
No.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you're in fact guilty?
Yes.
With respect to indictment 22 SC 183572, how do you plead to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act?
Yes.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with a full knowledge of the charge against you?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have 4 years from today's date to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this plea?
Yes.
And that can challenge anything about the constitutionality of the plea. It's not limited to voluntariness. Understand?
Yes.
And Your Honor, in this case,
Hang on just a second. You also have, so 4 years for that to file a direct appeal. You have 30 days from the date of sentencing, which is going to be today. And you have until the end of this term of court to file a motion seeking to withdraw your guilty plea. That doesn't mean anything like that would be granted. You would have to establish facts that would warrant that. But that's just the time period is until the end of this term of court. Do you understand that as well?
Yes.
All right.
And the term
Your Honor, in this case, were to continue this trial, Your Honor, the state would expect,
2 months.
as this defendant, the state would expect to show that what has already come into evidence that on July 3rd, 2017, as well as October 23rd, 2018, that this defendant is an associate of the enterprise of YSL, also known as Young Slime Life, and that he conspired to associate together with others for the common purpose of illegally obtaining money and property through a pattern of racketeering activity and conducting and participating in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. And further to the conspiracy, this defendant engaged in
This
activities
is what she's saying.
below.
We intended to.
He engaged in activities that assisted with preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise through acts of racketeering activity to include murder, assault, and threats of violence. That this defendant preserved, protect, and enhance the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise by the posting of messages, images, appearance, and videos, and songs demonstrating allegiance to the enterprise and willingness to engage in violence.
We're going to take a quick time out because Big T is asking me, is all of this underneath the RICO charge? And essentially what she's saying right here is this is what the state intended to prove should he stay on this indictment and continue with this trial. The first charge is RICO. Everybody is charged with RICO. Some people are only charged with RICO, and whatever individual crimes they have on their own is an overt act. So they're saying, yeah, you got caught with that weapon. Yes, you got caught with that dime baggie of, marijuana or whatever. It doesn't matter what you were doing with it. We're saying that you had that with the intent of using it to further the enterprise of YSL. In some instances, some of these people have charges with distribution. Like they got caught with marijuana. He in particular got caught with MDA with the intent to distribute. They're saying, regardless of what he was doing, how he was doing it, and who he was doing it for, that is in furtherance of YSL. He was doing it for YSL. The state is saying he was doing it for YSL. Not he's saying I was doing it for YSL. Like, yes, this big corporation, they gave me the drugs and I sell them for them and then I give them back the money. No, he's saying the state is saying that. He's not saying it. So whatever the people's individual charges are, even if they really didn't at any point have anything to do with YSL, they are now saying it has something to do with YSL. So what she's reading off is all the list of charges she intended to attribute to YSL for him. And she's explaining all this painfully. It's painfully being explained.
In violence on his behalf, and to obtain money, weapons, and other property through acts of racketeering activity, including the unlawful sale and distribution of drugs. Your Honor, evidence has come in during this trial that on July 3rd, 2017, Mr. Nichols was located at 2612 Steele Avenue, which is in the Cleveland Avenue sector of the city. Your Honor, he was found inside of a vehicle. When that vehicle was searched, Your Honor, this was in October 2018, they found marijuana as well as sandwich baggies that would be used to package drugs, and there are also guns found inside of that vehicle. Also in July of 2017, this defendant was stopped during a traffic stop in the Cascade area, Your Honor. After being stopped, Your Honor, there was a consensual search of the vehicle that yielded powder MDMA, Xanax, as well as a loaded gun inside of that vehicle. Additionally, Your Honor, in July 2019, Mr. Nichols was featured in a video with another YSL member, Shannon Stillwell, and Woody Lee. In that video, it was entitled Slack Talk. And in that video, co-conspirator Shannon Stillwell, while performing, makes such quotes as, "Me and my slimes are above the law." We know from the evidence that slimes is one of the terminology used by members of YSL to refer to themselves or other members of this enterprise. And then last but certainly not least, Your Honor, that in March of 2022, Your Honor, Mr. Nichols was found in surveillance video at a gas station at Windsor Street and Fulton Street here in Atlanta, Georgia. This was on March 14, 2022, during what the state would believe to show an onset of a gang war that really started in 2015 with the death of Donovan Thomas and carried on into 2022. In February of 2022, a rival gang member by the name of Rayshawn Bennett, also known as Wyatt Lucci, was stabbed at the Fulton County Jail in February of 2022. Information about that stabbing was made public at the early part of March 2022, around March 3rd of 2022. Once that information was released to the public, there was an onset of retaliatory activity that occurred between March 3rd, 2022 and March 16th of 2022. That includes a March 11th homicide of YSL associates Christian McMillan and Darius Ford. It also did include a retaliatory shooting of a YFN associate, and then ultimately it led to a murder of Shamel Drinks, who we believe is a YFN associate. This murder occurred again on March 14, 2022. Mr. Nichols is seen on surveillance video at that BP gas station, as I just referenced earlier. He was at the gas station with YSL co-conspirator Shannon Stillwell. Mr. Stillwell was driving an Audi vehicle. Mr. Nichols came to that gas station in a Ford Fusion vehicle. You see both of them on camera together. While they are at that gas station, Shamel Drinks approaches that gas station as well. I think unbeknownst to Mr. Drinks, Mr. Stillwell was still in his vehicle, which is the Audi. At some point in time, Mr. Nichols got to his vehicle, the Ford Fusion. Once Mr. Drinks finished his business or finished handling business at that gas station, we know that there's a phone call between occupants of the car that Mr. Stillwell was in and occupants of the car that Mr. Nichols was in. That communication was to the effect that we need to get on FaceTime. As soon as that conversation ensues, we see Mr. Drinks leave the gas station in his vehicle, and both the car that Mr. Stillwell is driving as well as the car that Mr. Nichols is driving both follow out of the gas station, following behind Mr. Drinks. Mr. Drinks proceeds down the street to the light at Windsor, which is right by I-20 in Windsor. Mr. Drinks is in the far left lane. The car involving with Mr. Stillwell pulls up to the middle lane, and Mr. Nichols' vehicle pulls up to the far right lane. this all captured on surveillance video, surveillance camera. They are at the light for a moment. Then we see both with this car with Mr. Stillwell as well as the car with Mr. Nichols drive through a red light.
Why is she
leaving the car with Mr.
explaining
Drake
all
sitting
this?
at
This
that light.
just got me.
About 30 minutes later, the Samaritan sees
Why
that
is
car
she
still
sitting
sitting
here
there.
explaining all
approaches
this?
the
So
vehicle, and
normally,
Mr. Drake is now deceased inside of that vehicle.
when there's a
We have
plea
noted LPR
deal,
leaders that both.
okay, so normally when there's a plea deal to be had at some juncture inside the court, it is the defendant who has to state for the court what happened, put it on record what happened. So why is she sitting there? I usually don't see a DA doing this, breaking down their version of events or what they see is happening. Normally during a plea deal, it's the defendant that has to go in and state these as if they're facts to record of the court. Am I seeing something different? Is this a different type of plea?
I don't think so, but I think this is just the way that they do it in Georgia.
Oh,
I've
okay.
never seen it like where the
Yeah.
state goes in and say, well, this is what
We see. Right. The defendant has to make the statement on court,
Yes.
on record in court, and the judge will sit there and usually a lot of this talking is done by the judge. So this is different than I've normally seen where the judge says, Mr. blah, 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 you have to say XYZ occurred on the day, you have to lay it on, for the record coming out of your mouth and agree that these are the facts.
Right.
Yeah, I usually don't see it done like the DA just running off at the chops the whole time.
Right.
Giving their turn of event, just their view on the events. Maybe it's something that's specific to Georgia, but in other states is done differently.
Yeah, basically. We've seen him on camera. We see the cars get into other lanes after following behind him. That's captured on surveillance. Not that they seen gunfire go from the car into the other car. None of that, but they see this. And then, so basically, she's pleading her case.
Yeah.
In court, the plea agreement.
Right. Instead of him just making a statement of facts of what was done, so we can get on with all this. After the defendant says what's done, then you can go into what the plea is going to be after there's a statement that he says, yes, I did this. This is my involvement.
Right. But instead of doing that, she's arguing. She's making argument. This is closing arguments, right? I thought so too. That's why I was like, I need you to watch this with me. This is crazy.
Unless there's just something different that goes on.
And every state is different, so it very well could be. But this is, oh my God.
It could be.
Yeah, it's I've never seen anything like it. So this is just weird.
Both Mr. Stillwell's vehicle and the car involving Mr. Nichols drive in the direction of 20 westbound and followed in tandem. 2 days later, when after the case is investigated and arrest warrants are taken out, on March 17th, 3 days later, Mr. Nichols is found with Mr. Stillwell at a Chick-fil-A gas station, Chick-fil-A restaurant. There is a chase, we'll call it a high-speed chase, where they chase through the city of East Point, and eventually Mr. Nichols as well as Mr. Stillwell are both apprehended after arrest warrants were ultimately taken out for the murder of Mr. Drake. Given where we are in the case, Your Honor, we know that Mr. Nichols, we do not believe Mr. Nichols was in the vehicle in which the shooting occurred, but he was in this other vehicle. The state has made a decision to move forward with this recommendation for the RICO count, Your Honor, for count one.
Mr. Harvey, are y'all acknowledging a factual basis to the count one, the RICO count?
Okay, we are acknowledging a factual basis. There has already been evidence with regard to the July 3rd, 2017 drug event, the October 23rd, 2018 drug event. We categorically deny and contest any use of violence by Mr. Nichols. We don't agree to that underlying factual basis. We believe those two predicate acts that were committed by Mr. Nichols without any question are sufficient to meet the elements of the offense.
Right.
The offense to which he's pleaded to, which is a RICO conspiracy. A RICO conspiracy requires proof that the defendant either conspire with another person to violate one of the substantive provisions of RICO, and that would be drug offenses, or personally endeavor, I believe that's what the language of the statute says, to violate one of the substantive provisions.
Well, that's what the language of the statute says, but he is indicted in this indictment with conspiring, not with endeavoring.
That's correct. So we're talking about a conspiracy. We acknowledge the two events that he participated in. We categorically deny any other allegations other than those two events that are sufficient for a factual basis. We categorically deny that we participated in any way in the unfortunate death of Mr. Drinks. We categorically deny any other charges to which we are substantive charges to which we are not entering a plea, and that includes gang charges. This is a plea solely to a conspiracy to violate the RICO Act. So that, but yes, we acknowledge a factual basis to that extent, Your Honor.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Your Honor, we just have one additional thing to say.
Go ahead.
The factual basis regarding the nature of YSL is that the evidence has shown and will continue to show that Mr. Nichols conspired with others to participate in Young Slime Life through a pattern of racketeering activity, and multiple defendants and unindicted co-conspirators have committed overt acts to further this conspiracy, including drug sales, aggravated assault, and murder, also including social media posts, asserting violent nature of and asserted dominance of Young Slime Life, also known as YSL. And that concludes our factual.
And again, once again, we categorically deny those representations. And again, the only thing that is necessary to meet the factual evidence of a 1614-4C is proof that the defendant conspired with another person to violate one of the substantive provisions of RICO, and that is subsumed by the drug offenses that have already been proven in this case and to which Mr. Nichols has previously pled.
All right, thank you. Understood.
And Your Honor, I approach with the waiver of rights form.
Yes. All right, Mr. Harvey, have you reviewed with Mr. Nichols this plea of guilty and waiver of rights form, which the two of you have both signed?
I have, Judge, and each individual provision in that plea colloquy has been acknowledged and gone over personally with Mr. Nichols.
All right. And Mr. Nichols, have you had sufficient time to consider this guilty plea that has been negotiated between the state and your attorneys and to discuss anything you wanted to about that with your attorneys?
Yes.
All right. And you understand, I hope, I'm going to ask you, that it is your decision ultimately, obviously with the advice of your attorneys, but it's ultimately up to you individually to decide whether you want to enter this guilty plea or not. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. And you do want to enter this guilty plea?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Harvey, have you advised Mr. Nichols of the alternatives if he does not ultimately go through with his guilty plea and the potential benefits and drawbacks of all of the other options?
Yes,
All right.
very thoroughly, Judge.
All right. All right, Mr. Harvey, is there anything that the defense wants to add to the record?
Judge, other than the statement with regard to the underlying factual basis, I would point out for the court that when Mr. Nichols filled out his form, it says 29 plus. He is a birthday boy in a couple of days and he will be 30. And at 30 years of age, he has a wife. He has got a 13-year-old daughter. He's got a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. His wife and sister, I believe, are here in the courtroom to support him. He, Mr. Nichols, was born and raised in Atlanta. And, you know, we're at this point, before I have even given my opening statement in this case,
Yes, sir.
I do want the court to know that Mr. Nichols' mother died in prison. His father was shot by the Atlanta police when he was 4 years old.
Hey, Drea!
And he was raised by friends and family in the Atlanta area. So he has come to this point in his life from a very humble beginning. And he has sought the support of friends in this courtroom and others in this courtroom. He is an intelligent young man who I believe has a future. Every day we do a word of the day. We put a new word into a sentence. And I think this is in his best interest. I know that there is, and I know this plea is negotiated, but it's a long downside from 7 to 20. So the courts will have jurisdiction over him for a period of time. So I ask the court, given who this young man is, and given our categorical denial of some of the factual basis, to accept the plea and sentence Mr. Nichols accordingly.
Mr. Nichols, is there anything that you want to say?
No, ma'am.
All right. All right. I find there to be a factual basis for the guilty plea to the RICO count one of the indictment, that being a conspiracy to.
And the quick pause is for everything.
Hold on. Those that don't know, this is Big T. He's my other half. I begged him to watch this with me. I'd already seen it. He had not. He had a little bit of knowledge about plea deals. So I was like, hey, I need you to watch this because this seems a little like to me to make sure I'm not just like tripping. And he was like, okay. So I'm glad he has some commentary for you guys.
Oh no, just the plea for every defendant is standing up in front of the judge. The sentence that always gets you, you know, you feel a little tinge, that little stab in the heart is when they keep repeating that the judge does not have to follow this plea deal and can sentence you to the max amount if the judge so chooses. That's for every defendant's like, oh, that's when the prayers you praying like, please don't let this judge do nothing crazy. Don't let this judge do nothing crazy, please. So this every time they say, and they keep repeating all the way up until the moment where the judge actually, you know, lays a sentence that accepts it or denies it, because there have been cases where the judge does go through and deny it. It's rare, but it does happen, and you know, you never know. Especially, I'm sure down there in Atlanta, never know.
Things get a lot different.
Yeah.
Question for you: how did you feel about? Well, you know what? We'll watch the rest of this and then I'll ask you. All right. So we're going to finish up because it's not a whole lot left. And we're watching it on 1.5. So we'll finish up this and then I'll ask you.
Acquire control or interest in money and personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity. And that is the only count that guilty plea is being entered for. The remaining counts of this indictment as against Mr. Nichols are being null pros by the state as a part of this indictment. I find, having heard the evidence up to the point of trial right now, that there is evidence of at least one overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy, and that there is evidence that would fall within the required statute of limitations to establish this RICO conspiracy count. One of the things that we as judges are instructed by our Uniform Superior Court rules to do when we are considering whether to accept a guilty plea and whether to accept a negotiated sentence, and this is a negotiated sentence in this case, is to take into account whether giving leniency in sentencing is going to aid in ensuring promptness and certainty, or at least more promptness and more certainty with regard to corrective measures, whether the defendant, and in this case, the defendant has acknowledged guilt and is accepting responsibility for his guilt of the RICO count, and whether accepting the plea will aid in avoiding further delays, not just with regard to this case, but with regard to the entirety of our system here in Fulton County. And this plea does go towards doing all of those things. I am going to accept the plea as negotiated and sentence in accord with the negotiated recommendation. As I said before, find there to be a factual basis for count one of the plea. I find the plea to have been freely, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered into by Mr. Nichols with an understanding of the consequences of doing that. And the sentence on count one is the sentence that has been negotiated of 20 years to serve 7, with the balance of those years to be served on probation. And that, I don't know if there are any special conditions attached to this that y'all have talked about at all.
There are no negotiated special conditions in those there, so there are none as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
He doesn't
Okay.
claim
So with regard to
ourselves
the
again.
time that you are on probation, you need to stay out of all kinds of criminal trouble. Make this a birthday present to yourself and to your children and to your wife and family, that you will leave from here today and leave whatever you used to do behind you, and take the next few years. You know, you're going to have some years that are still to be served on this. You'll have credit for the time you've already served, but you're still going to be facing some incarceration time. But after that, you are going to be out, and you, I believe, Mr. Harvey is correct, can be a productive member of society. And this is an opportunity for you to do that, and for you to put your past behind you, the bad parts of it, and continue and make your children proud of you, and set a good example for them, an example that I guess, unfortunately, you were not lucky enough to have throughout the entirety of your childhood with your parents. I'm sorry about that, but you can be the kind of parent that you ought to be to your children. So I am going to impose that sentence, and I am going to wish you luck and good fortune as you go forth from here. So I think that unless there's anything else from either party, that will conclude these proceedings, and y'all can go ahead and take him into custody. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of those bittersweet moments.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Okay, so now we're going to kind of discuss. There was a couple of things that happened during this. One, Hilton reading out everything that they thought that they were going to prove. Now, I think we go back and forth on what they've already proved so far. But as far as like, one, the Donovan Thomas thing, they ain't proved none of that. We hadn't quite got to the Chamel drinks yet. We were creeping up on there because they had just finished the whole Little Rod situation. So I think the Chamel drinks thing was going to be next. But that's also when they kind of get into Detective Viverito and the wiretap. Now, what Carmavius Nichols, the situation with him. Remember when Mooney Lee said free Quay? There was 2 Quays in the courtroom. He was one of them, and the other one was Marquavius Huey, the one whose mom and sister right now are in jail for giving the guard, I guess, like $1,500 for whatever. We don't know. That could have been for a hairdo. We don't know. But she had $17,000 that they didn't even discuss where that came from. They only brought up the little less than 1% or 10% that he had contributed to her funds. But okay, so we have that. We have Harvey since before the trial even went to trial, which would be a year in November, has been trying to sever his client off of this case. Like legitimately, there's so many days you can go back in this trial with, even when Glanville was on the case, he's like, this has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with my client. We don't deserve to be here. Let us free. And Judge Glanville was like, I'm sorry, but you here. When that whole fiasco happened with Woody and they were trying to get severed, then they're like his motions for a mistrial, his motions for severance, he did the same thing there. He took this as an out. He's like, I need to get my client off of this trial because if I do, I'm pretty sure I can get his charges whittled down. He was facing murder. He had his 2 charges, his 2 drug charges. They were listed as overt acts. They then had the felon in possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony that they turn around and add back. How they do that, I do not know. So basically they can say, oh, you had drugs on you. And because you had this certain amount of drugs on you, we're going to charge you with distribution. And then, oh, we found a gun in the car. So we're going to charge you with that gun. And then we're also going to charge you with, because you're on probation as a felon with a firearm in the commission of a felony, because we charge you with the distribution. And you have a gun charge. It's crazy how they can line out the charges like that. To me, a regular person, that's crazy. But he had all of that. He also had the RICO charge, which again, every 28 individuals that were indicted all had the RICO charge, right? All of them had it. Now they have the RICO charge for everybody. And then they also has the YSL as a gang charge. That's separate from the RICO charge. So basically, what it sounded to me that Harvey said, we're going to agree that we, in his attempts to sell these drugs, were breaking the law regarding the Corrupt Organizations Act. That. But we're not saying YSL is a gang. We're not admitting to that. We're not saying that I had anything to do with any shootings, any unalivings, anything. We're saying, yes, I got caught twice for drugs, and I will agree to the things that I've already been charged for with that. And that is all. That is it. Finito, done. That is it. So that whole 12 minutes that Hilton chose to rattle off at the mouth about all this stuff that they intended to prove and that they wanted to prove, Harvey basically came in and said, yeah, I don't care what you're talking about. We're not agreeing to none of that. We're not acknowledging that we had anything to do with any of those things. We're not acknowledging that you were going to prove that. We're not acknowledging any of that. What we're saying is he got caught for some drugs. He is admitting that he got caught from some drugs, and we're going to take the charges on those drugs as overt acts underneath the umbrella of RICO. We're not saying YSL is a gang. We're not saying we did anything for YSL as a gang. We're just saying as a person who committed these acts, those acts were corrupt. That's basically what he agreed to with everybody in the courtroom. Now, what that will look like for Thug, I don't know.
Yeah. Don't
I
down in
don't know.
Atlanta they have a specific charge that say that I did the evidence. Around our way they have the nolo contendere, the no contest, to say the evidence is so insurmountable that I'm not pleading guilty, but I'm saying I plead no contest to these things because the evidence is insurmountable. Now it's just verbiage, but it's basically the same thing as the guilty plea. You get the same thing, but don't in Atlanta they have a plea, that Alfred plea they talk about. So
yes,
why didn't they negotiate for an Alfred plea?
More than likely, they've probably tried, but the state probably refused it.
Yeah.
Because he was already a convicted felon. He already had charges. They can prove his charges. That's a lot of the reason why there's like almost 200 overt acts, is because all 28 of those individuals as individuals had been arrested, booked, and charged for different things. Whether it be drug charges, whether it be attempted robberies, whether it be murder charges, regardless, they all had individually been charged for something. Like Thug's charge is the RICO count, and then also he got pulled over and they found like some lean and some, it's questionable where they found the Xanax. Supposedly, he said body cam. Yes, he said it was in the cup holder, but no body cam is available, and then they said it was in the middle console. Who knows? Whatever. But yes, that did have something to do with that. Yeah, Harvey wanted his severance. Harvey got his severance. Supposedly there's still negotiations going on with the other Quay, Marquavius Huey. He also is has the most charges. I think he has like 19 different charges. Most of his are regarding armed robbery. There's one incident in particular, where supposedly he calls up his friend's uncle or something like that and tells him, yo nephew needs some money on his books. Meet me at the park and give me some money to put on his books. I'm going to do it. Not like you can do it electronically, which you can. Mm-mm. Not like you could send a money order, which you can. Not like you could have called his mama and gave it to the mama, which he could have. This is the story. And he goes to the park to meet him, and then some dudes show up with, ski mask on, and they essentially rob him, take his vehicle and his wallet. Mm. Does it not sound like you're trying to bust a swerve? You're trying to get some extra stuff. But whatever. We say what we say when we say it, however we say it. Whatever. But I think that was kind of like a big deal. How it may look for the other defendants, we don't know. They called the family members in there. The aunt of the guy Shamel Drinks, who had passed away in 2022, I want to say. It may have been before that. He the guy that they said like basically ended up dying at that stoplight. Yeah. The family, the aunt, had went on Infamous Sylvia's podcast yesterday and basically was talking about it and was saying that she did not agree. The family of him did not agree with how the state was choosing to prosecute this case. They were like, if you got these people and these people are who had something to do with my nephew's, unaliving, prosecute them. Yeah. Why are you trying to do it under this whole RICO count instead of just taking care of them? If we know it's them, let's just do it then.
Yeah, instead of creating a circus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, this was one of the gentlemen that was accused of that unaliving. He was in a car that supposedly has something to do with that. They chose to prosecute that charge. They dropped it. They dropped that charge. How is that family getting
the justice that they were seeking?
Yeah. You literally told them to come to the courtroom to basically show them, yep, we're dropping that. So I get it that it is a win for the state because they have a conviction even before the election, but you didn't get what you wanted. He don't have to testify against nobody. He don't have to come back and testify against nobody. He has already served 31 months on his current sentence of 7 years. And they put in the agreement that at 40 months, he becomes eligible for parole.
Oh, man, he's about to.
So he may.
7 years is like, 84 months? And so he got halfway there.
Yeah. But supposedly, that 31 months that he served so far counts towards that.
Yeah.
So it's just the difference.
Served,
and then they said, we will allow you to apply for parole after 40 months. So he may only end up having to serve 9 months. I mean, I doubt that he only serves 9 months.
I'm sure they're going to fight that too.
Yeah. You know, they'll probably try to make him serve closer to like 2 years, at least 2 years. But yeah. But what do you think about that? Like,
I think it'll be tough now that the jury's going to come back and see that 2 more defendants are gone, which is, I don't know how they're going to deal with it in court to say that where these 2, jurors gone. They're going to have to make some statement to the jury like, hey, something occurred that now these guys are gone. You have to give a reason why they're gone and how they're going to reason that. The judge makes all these statements, hey, they're not in court no more. Take whatever you thought about them, out. You don't think about what happened with them, with these defendants. And I don't think that's something that the jury is going to be able to do. It's either going to be in a negative light or a positive light. Hopefully it's in a positive light to say, hey, someone got found guilty for some crimes. That's why they're no longer part of these defendants. So now we have, a few less things that we have to deal with, to think about when we're trying to determine if the rest of the defendants are guilty of, whatever crimes are left. So hopefully they can discern, scrape something off the plate of the jury, say, hey, we don't have to worry about certain things anymore. Now just look at the last defendants for, whatever crimes we have left and just take away whatever they're charged with. I don't think that Atlanta, I don't know if they're going to do it like that in Atlanta. It was like still charge them with whatever they're charged with too, which has kind of been the story so far.
Yeah.
Whatever those other 200 some odd overt accounts are, still charge the remaining defendants with those same counts. So I don't know if it looks any better for Thug after all that's done.
Well, what about the other individuals who also have the same unaliving charges as him, but they chose to keep taking it to court? Because this is happening while the court is in session, while they're on, while they're trying this case, someone takes a plea deal in the midst of that after a mistrial motion. What happens? I mean, if the other Quay doesn't take the plea deal and he keeps going, then do you call a mistrial because he was referred to? Like they've said supposedly out loud, Doug Weinstein went on Twitter and said, we're taking this thing through. Basically, he said, we're continuing with the trial. So it led kind of everyone to believe that something with the goings on of his plea negotiation, they did not agree to. My speculation is Yak was actually signed to YSL. So because Yak was signed to YSL, I kind of feel like they may want Yak to testify against Young Thug. And Yak is like, I'm not doing it. And so, or maybe they want him to agree to knowing something about the unaliving of Donovan Thomas. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that because I don't. Whether he does or doesn't, no. It's something that's pausing them. The state declined their, so they came up with a plea deal. The defense sent back their kind of like their version of what they wanted. And I guess the state didn't agree to. Maybe they try to correct it or whatever. Unlike Moonton, though, his attorney, these guys ain't agreeing to nothing that they ain't agreeing to. And they lawyers is being doubly certain to make sure that they're not agreeing to nothing that they shouldn't be agreeing to. Unlike Moonton, who said yes to a bunch of stuff and then got on the stand and said, well, I thought I could correct it when I got on the stand. And the state said, nah, not so much. So we're going to throw you in jail for 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that look like for Shannon Stillwell, who's still on trial for the unaliving of this guy, Shamel Drinks?
It doesn't look good. I say that from the perspective where the jury's sitting at, it doesn't look good. One person found guilty. We know there's more than one person involved. That means
he didn't find him guilty of that, though. Well, they know they're refusing to prosecute him on that unaliving charge. With the only charge, that's why Harvey kept saying, we absolutely unequivocally say no to anything having to do with violence. We are only saying that he's guilty of these drug charges. Absolutely nothing else. But they know because in opening statements, they hammered that point home that he's there with Shannon Stillwell for this unaliving charge.
Well, yeah. with it being the trial going so long, what the jury remembers from that long ago to what they remember now is a huge gap. Say this all occurred in 1 month span and they can associate the two things a lot quicker. I think it bode a lot worse for him. But with that long a span, maybe I don't know. To be in that jury would be crazy because it's just so much to have to intake and try to remember all the intricate pieces that the DA didn't put together, lofty or not.
But I feel like they're gonna remember Woody because he made an impact.
He did, yeah.
I feel like they're gonna remember some of Carmay or Quindarius Zachary just because he had his days. They're gonna remember some of Moontunk because he had his days. But what they're gonna really remember is what happens right before the defense takes over. So the last few cases are what they're gonna remember on the state side. They may not remember all the mumbo jumbo and the stuff from the beginning. All the 20 different detectives that say this, and this. They're gonna remember Eppinger because they had that body cam footage of him shooting that police officer. Mm-hmm. There's like a few things that they're absolutely it's gonna stick in their mind. But opening statement. Harvey never even gave opening statements. That was the shit kicker. He wanted to save it because he was trying to get off this trial. Yeah. So he was like, if I can get off, I'm gonna get off. Drea, 1.5 years. I do think the state is going to try to make him serve a good chunk of it. I'm not going to lie to you. I personally feel like, I know you want to get out as soon as possible, but I kind of feel like as much as you can knock off, because 13 years probation, that's hard. That is hard. And Atlanta, is my understanding that Georgia is one of those states that they don't really like you to move out of state if you're on papers. They want you to stay there. There's some states that aren't so against it, especially if it's for like a job opportunity or something like that. But Georgia's is one of those states that they want you to stay right there. And, you stay where your people are, where your family is, but sometimes those be the same ones that pull you into situations. You know what I'm saying? And so the more access you have to things that may drag you to the other side, someone who may be used to getting $1,500 a day is not going to be okay with only getting $1,500 a month working at McDonald's. Huey would absolutely be smart to take a plea, but they also trying to throw in all this new mess that just happened at the jail with the mama and the sister too. So he's probably got that in the back of his mind that he's thinking about also. Yeah, absolutely, because he got those new charges for being in the restricted area and that mess. So it gets a little bit complicated. We're just regular people giving our opinions. Again, I'm asking him because, he knows a little bit more, about the justice system than I do in those ways. So I'm like, it may sound a certain way to me, but he just be like, no, maybe that's normal. That happens. Da, 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 da. So it's good to have somebody to bounce those type of things off of.
I don't know a lot of stuff that's going on in this trial. Most people haven't seen. People haven't seen because it's not normal.
This is not normal.
It's not the normal field of what
being someone who sat in the courtroom before and listened to people's plea deals and listened to, again, I've told you I've had family members that had legal issues and I've been in that courtroom. I've never seen, heard, thought anything like this. A DA just rattling off at the mouth about charges that they were gonna prove. It ain't got nothing to do with what you're agreeing to right now. So why is this being allowed? Like, I truly do not understand that. I honestly feel like she should have butted in and told Hilton to shut up. But, that
I think with all these things that occur as the trial goes further and further, all they do is create more opportunity for, like the young kid, what was his name? Slime Shorty. When he made the statement he made about freeing Quay, the defense, I heard the defense hop up and say, hey, they're trying to goad us into a mistrial again, Judge. They're trying to goad us again. So even the defense feels like that the DA is angling for a mistrial so they can retrial the whole thing. So I say that to say that with so much time left, so many more witnesses to go through, there's going to be another fumble somewhere.
Absolutely.
And like the defense, they already feel like that's what they're doing, and the judge keeps saying, "No, that's not what their intent was." What you say? Did you see her face?
Yeah, did you see her face?
See her face?
I felt like it was a mistake. It had to have been a mistake. And it's kind of like, well, if it was such a mistake, why would you give him a paper that had it unredacted when you know it was supposed to be redacted? It's redacted on the screen. And your excuse is, well, Judge, she didn't say nothing until 10 minutes ago when we was at the bench. But all you literally had to do was she literally come into court every day with this little case, this pen case. It's got a bunch of pens and stuff in there. All she had to do was grab one of those pens and scribble it out. Just scribble it out. I'm sure she could have printed off 10 more copies of the same thing with everything unredacted, but she just had to scribble it out for him. And she didn't do that. You know, I, again, 100% believe that they're trying to go to mistrial because Detective Dennis got kicked off the case. He got kicked out of the trial. He cannot come back this trial. He cannot come back and give any opinions this trial. So if they get a mistrial, then they get to bring their witnesses back, i.e. Dennis gets to come back. Some of the evidence that got thrown out by Whitaker that was allowed in by Glanville, they get to try to get it back in with the new judge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I absolutely, like, with everything in me, believe that was, yes. Why? 10 minutes ago, you knew that you needed to get rid of this, and then you turn around and give him that paper that had it on there, and then not only do you ask him to read the hashtag, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Any other hashtags? Any other hashtags? Any other hashtags? And then he say free quiet. Any other hashtag? No. Oh. You realized it because you too were reading from an unredacted copy. So that's why I personally believe she kept asking. She too was reading for something that was unredacted. Everybody should have had a redacted copy at that point. There should have been no unredacted copies in anyone's hands. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you get what you get. You can't throw a fit, but I think, you know, they get to keep saying it's accident. It's an accident. It's a mistake. I'm sorry. It's a mistake. Y'all ain't giving Moontook no chance to go in there and defend himself and say, Judge, it was an accident. It was a mistake. When I saw that plea deal that had all the wrong information in there, you said, nope, you came in here and committed what I akin to perjury. Because you thought you could come in here and tell me what you thought your truth was, even though next to these factual acknowledgments, you signed something different saying it was true. So I personally feel like what's good for one is good for all. They was lying. If you feel like Moontook was lying, then I think the state is lying. I think that's fair. Because why? You know what I'm saying? Why would you have somebody sign something that you created out your own mind? Not something they told you. He didn't say, Judge, Thug gave me money to lay low. What he said was, Thug gave me money to go get a hotel because I couldn't sleep in my house that night because people were messaging me saying that I had something to do with the unaliving of Donovan Thomas. Mm-hmm. Not because I had something to do with it by myself and I did this in behalf of YSL, but me and Woody did it. That's what they're saying, because they know him to always be with Woody. I mean, you guys, they were bringing Rich Homie Quan in and his dad in, but guess why they decided not to call him? Because Woody on the stand when he came back, when he was the day he was in a suit, he said, me and my homeboy shot up Rich Homie Quan in his dad's barbershop because my partner had a problem with him. They were putting that on Thug and YSL. That's what they was having Rich Homie Quan and his dad come in and testify to, the shooting up of the barbershop because of the beef with Rich Homie Quan and supposedly Young Thug. Well, without prompting, without asking, Woody said, nope, that was Threat who had a problem with Rich Homie Quan, so we did that. That's why they didn't bring them in. That's why they stopped right then and there. You know what I'm saying? So if you listen, it get a lot deeper than what, you know what I'm saying, what you think it is. When you really start listening to the witnesses and you listening to the stories after you done heard the state give you their whole opinion of what has happened, and then you start listening to these people talk, you start putting the case together and you start doing it better than the state was doing it. You can start adding up 1 plus 1 and making it equal 2. The state be trying to add 1 plus 3 and making that shit equal 6. And that's not real. That's not okay. And the difference is we are average everyday people, but we know what we know. And most of us got a past, got a history, got some knowledge, got some sense, got a little bit of street smarts. And we like, oh, okay. Yes, Drea, Woody messed up their case. He messed it up. That's why they left that story alone, because she did not expect him to come in there and say that, because that was supposed to be on Thug and YSL. And Woody said, no, that had nothing to do with YSL. That had to do something with me. Supposedly, Woody stole Donovan Thomas' stuff on behalf of YSL. Woody said, nah, he left his door unlocked. He left his door unlocked.
He said, I just went in there.
And I just went up in there. They said, you knew who car that was? He like, and the state was trying to make it like, oh, you did this in behind YSL. He like, nah, I did this in behind me. The proof point. He's like, can't nobody tell me what to do. I do what I want to do. When I want to do it, how I want to do it for me. I'm selfish. And I think we can apply that same type of sentiment to everybody else, even with today's plea deal. Today was Cormarvius Nichols saying, I'm selfish about me. If I only got to plea to what I've done, then I did this for me. And I'm going to take this plea for me and my family. And I'm going to go do my 1.5, 2 years, 3 years, maybe. I'm going to go lay it down. I'm going to come back home and I'm going to do my balance, whatever that may be, 13, 14, 15 years on probation. I'm going to go on about my business because I don't want to sit here no more. I'm sitting here every day in this courtroom regardless. And if I can get off this case, go do the rest of my time and come back and be back with my family, before my 13-year-old graduate, I'm going to do that. Because that man is going to be 30 this month. I'm thinking Halloween. They said this month. So she said within a couple of days, 2 days is the 31st. He's going to be 30 years old. He has a 13-year-old and he will be out in time enough to see that 13-year-old graduate. Why not? It's okay to be selfish for self. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure if they offered Thug a sweetheart deal, he would too.
And maybe he wouldn't because he don't want the charges against him.
He doesn't want a felony because he can't tour with a felony.
Yeah,
he can't do what he needs to do with a felony. But even if it was just on some him shit, he would take his charges, but they trying to give him King Slime charges. They want him in jail for life. Right. They don't want to let him out. So he's like, shit, no, we're going to take this to trial. He got a whole song about it, say, take it to trial. So he's taking it to trial. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't want to come over here all night. But I did want to, discuss kind of what happened today and give y'all. Was that
the majority what happened? Are they going to do the other plea deal tomorrow?
We don't know if there's any more plea deals because, again, Yak Gotti's attorney, Doug Weinstein, he's the one with the glasses. Yeah. He's like, we going to court. Again, I don't know if there was something in the plea deal that they just did not want to stipulate to, but I am more than certain that these plea deals, they don't want to have to say YSL is the gang. They don't want to have to say they know nothing about no murders. They don't want to have to say that they did anything at the direction of, in furtherance of, because of YSL or Young Thug. They were on trial with this man fighting for their lives. So I think a lot of it is, why would I turn around and then try to throw you under the bus? These lawyers have not only a reputation, but they have friendships with each other. I'm not going to intentionally bash your client, especially if I know my client was doing his shit because he wanted to. He did it because he wanted to. So, yes, I'm going to try to get the best deal for my client, but that doesn't mean I'm going to completely throw yours under the bus to get there. You know what I'm saying? So, that shit makes sense. That's fair. That's okay. You know what I'm saying? I understand that there is a plea in play for Thug, but I also understand that Brian Steele is really, really, really like going through it with a fine-tooth comb about those wordings. like about the wording within that plea deal. I mean, even YFN Lucci admitted to the RICO charge and that he did stuff in furtherance of his gang YFN, but there was other stuff he didn't have to agree to. And of course, you know, that trial lasted not as long as this one because nobody really went to court. Everybody took a plea deal. These people are actually taking it to court. And we don't know what it'll look like for the next 12, 15 people that they have to left to try. So, but I do know Gotti said no. And one of the big things for Gotti is they're trying to give him that unaliving. The RICO, the unaliving of Donovan Thomas. Mm-hmm. All the other charges, the overt acts, he's already pled to. But I think I feel like it has a lot to do with the fact that he's on the label. He's on the label, so they want him to testify to certain things on the label. We rewatched the opening statements. And one of the things that Love said during her open statements is they didn't directly contact Thug when they did stuff. Mm-hmm. Instead, they contacted people that were close to Thug to say that they did stuff. Like, he told us to go commit this act. He told us to go sell this weed. And then once we sold it all, we didn't call him, but we called his sister, tell the sister we sold it all. And they're like, you know, literally, they got asked on stage, like, Mutum, did you give him any of the proceeds from what you was doing? No. They asked Trontavious Stevens, Slug or Tick, did you give him any of the proceeds? No. They asked DK, you give him no. But okay. They literally had a detective come on there and say, well, I was recording this person's statement, right? And I didn't quite believe what they was telling me. So I recorded it. And then I stopped recording and basically told them, I'm gonna lock your ass up. You keep lying to me. And then we decided to record over that statement.
With the statement that I wanted them to make, huh? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The statement I wanted them to make, we recorded over that. But that is not a crime. Even though another detective in that same precinct that they worked with said, I would never do that. That's called tampering with evidence. That's a crime. But the state said, that's okay. That's okay. Tick was amazing. Tick said, she said, name us 3 people that contributed in YSL, the gang. He said, well, I thought I could be the 3 people.
Me, myself, and I.
She said, Love said, you thought you could count as 3 people? He was like, yeah, I can't. And she's like, no, name me 3 people. So he named himself and then 2 people that were dead. Oh. And she said, so how did you do things in furtherance of YSL? He said, well, I sold drugs at the gas station. And so I kept a firearm on me while I was at the gas station. And so because I did that, I guess I was doing things to show that because I sold drugs and I had this firearm, that I was going to protect my drugs with this firearm. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. And Love was like, is that what you did? Yeah, I guess that was me showing people that I was doing everything to protect my drugs and furtherance of YSL because I was in YSL. I was a member of YSL because I created YSL. And then I sold drugs for me. So because I'm in YSL, I guess that's a part of YSL, right? And then because I had this gun, that was me protecting my drugs for YSL. That's okay, right? And Love was like, I wish I could see her face because you could just see a side profile when he was saying all this, but he was like wide-eyed and like, that's right? Like a kid that just got caught in trouble and they trying to explain themselves. That's what it looked like.
Honoring his deal at the same time.
Yeah, Doug Weinstein did say there's still the mistrial looming. You know, I think it still has a lot to do with whether or not Quay is going to plead out or not. But still, I don't know if I would give the DA the opportunity to retry it. There's nobody in the state of Georgia that don't know about this case. So they're not going to get an unbiased jury in there. The only difference is they may get a jury that's a little less colorful, but doubtful. But, you know, I don't know. But a jury is so, you never know. It may seem like it's going in your favor and it may not be. So I don't really know. Drea, I agree. Tick was a hoot. I kind of want to do a rewatch with Tick. I do. You know, I don't know. We'll see what happens this week. If the happenings allow me to kind of go do a little live like this every week, every day, I certainly will come home and do like kind of a recap afterwards for like an hour or so. And then if I end up doing that, then Saturday we may just do a rewatch of Trontavious Stevens while he was on the stand. Because I ain't gonna lie, I felt like he was kind of Woody before Woody. He was funny. He was very funny. He was very interesting. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments. I really do appreciate everybody that joined us today for this live. I really wanted to introduce Big T to everyone because I talk about having him join, and today just kind of seemed perfect. He didn't have to work today. So, and then there was a happening that I felt like I could get his advice on. So I really do appreciate you guys all. We are almost to, I think, 160 subscribers, which is, for me, is amazing. I'm sorry. I'm new to YouTube, so I did not expect that. My goal is, my birthday is in December. My goal is to have, hopefully, I really want to try to have 1,000 subscribers before January 1. That would be like a nice birthday present for me. So I was on a lead attorney today, and you know, I've been on Cat, and they've gotten like 1,000 subscribers in a few minutes. Lee got somebody 1,000 subscribers today in like 2 minutes. I was on Cat's live. It was about a month ago though, but like within that live, I think she ended up like with 1,000 subscribers, 2,000 subscribers in a day. So that is my goal. I'm really working towards that goal. I'm hoping to complete that goal. That would be an amazing birthday present for me. So I'm hopeful. I appreciate you guys all for tuning in today and just being a part of the Mocha Is Me family. I thank you so much for coming in and tuning in and commenting and letting me know that I'm doing a good job and you like listening to my rants and bants and discussions. And thank you, Drea, for shouting out Big T. She says, what's it? And until next time, guys, subscribe, like, share, tell your friends and family to come listen to me talk crazy for a little bit, and let's see where this channel goes. Let's do big things, okay? Let's do big things. Hi, Mimi. Thank you. Drea, thank you. Really do appreciate you guys today. Shout out to Plans and Pins. I really appreciate you too. So, love you guys. Bye. Till next time.